everyone. Today we have the incredible Nanxi Liu, who is the co-CEO and co-founder of Blaze Technology, an AI-driven platform that enables teams to build software and web apps without writing any code. She's also Forbes 30 Under 30, and previously to starting Blaze, she was the CEO and co-founder of Enplug, a leading global digital signage software company that she led from startup to its successful acquisition by Spectrio in March 2021. Welcome to the E of Wonder podcast, Nanxi.
Thank you so much for having me, Kalika.
I would love for you to share your origin story with everyone, from what you were doing in college and how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll take it even, step back from before college. So I was originally born in China, immigrated to the US when I was 5 years old to Colorado, landlocked Colorado. In fact, I'd never been to a beach until I was 18 years old. And when I was in Colorado, I think I just was set on wanting to go to California, got to go to UC Berkeley. And that's where I feel like probably the beginnings of being like, oh, you know what, maybe I can go and build businesses as, what I do after college emerged. And so when I was in college, I actually just started lots of different businesses and projects for fun, just to make money on the side. Everything ranging from dating apps, because you're never a tech entrepreneur until you start a failed dating app company. So that is exactly what I did in college, to this crime reporting app, to then this biotech company that's venture backed and still successfully running. And then also right after college, starting then Enplug, which has grown to be one of the largest digital signage software companies. And then of course, I guess when I was in college, all of this was just accidental. I did not expect that I would go be an entrepreneur, but it was truly, just building products, working with really smart people. That was what I did for fun. And I couldn't believe that I could actually make it a job and something I could do full time.
Besides businesses, you also give back a lot. Tell us about all the boards that you're on and how you contribute back.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm on different boards ranging from nonprofit boards to, for-profit boards. The for-profit boards, those are not volunteer work. I very much get paid for those, but for the nonprofit work, that's something that I've always loved doing. And I've been I think in my DNA, volunteering ever since we were really young. Even when we were young, we had no money. I think part of the giving back to the community is because when we came to the US, we had so much support from neighbors and from the community organizations. Like there is, the Dear Santa program, which I was a part of, the free lunch program. There in our apartment complex that we lived in, they had like bread giveaways, etc. So I think just growing up around that, I just recognized how important and meaningful some of these organizations can be. And so since college, I just started engaging in different nonprofit organizations and taking a role on the board. One of the earliest ones was Lady Gaga's foundation, where I was in her first class of youth advisory board members. And now, I'm on the board of After School All Stars, where we provide free after school programs to tens of thousands of students across the country. I serve on the board of Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation. We build dream fields and we support other nonprofits. We give out lots of grants throughout Los Angeles and partner with organizations that are helping with education, with our youth and getting them access to opportunities, in providing better healthcare, advocacy work, etc. But it's definitely a major part of how I spend my time and what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, and you're also producing Emmy award-winning television shows. Tell us a little bit about that too.
That is also very accidental. I think growing up in Colorado and watching, just amazing Hollywood movies and TV shows, I think I had this dream because I had never really been to Los Angeles before actually moving to LA after college. I was like, man, it'd be so cool if I could, somehow get involved in the entertainment industry in some way, shape, or form. And so I was very early on when I first moved to LA, introduced to this director, Gregory Martin. I watched in this theater this movie that he had made on a shoestring budget. It was amazing. it moved me so much. And afterwards I was like, hey, can I just help you on any of your projects? Like, you don't need to pay me or anything. I just want to help. I just want to volunteer for you on the weekends. And so I actually helped him raise money for his next film. And then after that, he call it, a couple of years passed, and I had reconnected with him again, and he was making this incredible show called the Bay TV series. And he said, hey, would you like to, be a producer on this show and do some of the things that I was doing before, just at a bigger scale, and helping raise money, find distribution, helping find great people to be involved, both on the, on the people, the actors side and the crew side. And so I would say I am just grateful to work with that team. And yeah, in the season that I was involved with, we swept the Emmys. We won in every single category that we were nominated for. And so that was a thrilling experience, very much a side project. For me, I think it's just going in there, knowing what my skill set is, contributing it, and wanting to bring the highest level of success in kind of any group or team that I get to work with.
Did you ever walk on as an extra?
No, I did not. I actually, you know what? I take that back. I think there was, for the movie that we worked on, I was in the audience as an extra, yes, for this one scene, and that was about it. But for me, I like being behind the scenes. I like the business part. I love interacting with the actors, but I'm not the person to be, on screen.
You're just the actor advocate, right? Show advocate. So that's
Yes.
fantastic. And you also are a partner at X Factor Ventures. Tell us a little bit about that too.
Yes, I love the work we get to do at X Factor. So X Factor Ventures is a group of women, all successful founders, where we go and we invest in other female founders that are building billion-dollar ideas. So we've invested now as a fund in over 90 different startup companies. For the recent funds, every check we write, we want to be early, one of the earliest checks in. We write 150K to each of these companies, and then we give them our entire network of resources and support. I think as a female entrepreneur myself, I recognize how important to have that community, that support system, and just other women that you can go and talk with and share ideas with, and know that they have these similar lived experiences as you in building a company, in the obstacles that every single day, there's just no shortage of fires you have to put out. I think it's just been tremendous for the startup companies that we get to work with. And so it's a great group of other partners I get to collaborate with. I think our investing process is also super interesting, and that all of us, of course, also are investors into the fund, but we have a model where you don't have to get every single one of the partners to agree to make that investment. In order to make the investment, I individually, independently can go say, hey, you know what, I really believe in this company and I'm going to make that investment. And I think that model, one where you don't need to have consensus for everything, has really been successful. And we've just found that a lot of the companies we invested in that are doing super well, they were quite contentious. It was ones where there was a lot of pushback from other partners giving feedback. But I found that if you're building something, if everyone's just like suddenly on board, I almost sometimes now I'm like, what's there? But if there's some friction, I think it's like, oh, there's something really real there. And of course, the founders experience that early on, all these different obstacles. And I think it then puts it at the forefront of when they're solving problems, that they're solving it really early on because they themselves have received this pushback. So it's a group that I love working with, that I'm really proud of the companies we've invested in.
How can you tell if a woman's potential business that you want to invest in is $1 billion investment?
A couple of different, it's a couple of different things. So one, it is how big is this market opportunity? And you can do a couple of different ways to calculate this. You can do, top down, bottoms up. You can see, what are the total, you can read research reports, you can read about total number of possible users, how much are they paying for the service right now, what's the potential upsell that you can have. And so for us, like some of the companies that I've invested in, one of them, they are a leading kitchenware company. It's a company called Our Place. And I'm the partner at Spectrio, actually, that's not supposed to be doing consumer stuff. I'm more focused on B2B software. That's more of my background. So I actually got
tech.
quite a bit of pushback. And they're like, Nancy, you don't even cook and you're going to invest in this, kitchenware products company. And I said, this product is amazing. I bought their product. I see it. It's beautiful. The founder, Shaza, is remarkable. I've seen the other things that she's built from the ground up before, and she's just a winner. She's a person that I want to bet on. And of course, the kitchenware market is massive. So that definitely checked the box. And then it was about, can they execute and are they differentiated enough to be a winner?
On top of that, right, you also, I think last time when we were having our pre-podcast call, you had this beautiful grand piano behind you. You're also a musician. You play piano.
I
How has
do.
music helped you with your businesses?
Music has been probably something that's been the most consistent part of my life for as long as I remember. I started learning piano when I was 6 years old. I also played the cello and violin, but piano was the original instrument that I spent a lot of time on. It's that like 10,000 hours. You put 10,000 hours. I definitely put in more than 10,000 hours on the piano. And for piano, it was the first thing that showed me and taught me this correlation, this relationship between work ethic and results, and discipline and results. Now, for some things, you can't just work hard to get results, but for a lot of things, you can be the smartest person, but if you don't put in that time to something, you're just likely not going to get there. And for piano, instruments, sports, I think a lot of things, no matter how brilliant and talented you are, you just have to put in that work, that time, that dedication. And so since 6 years old, through basically high school, every single day, I played an hour, or there's some days maybe I didn't get to an hour, but for most of the days from ages 6 through 18, I played and practiced piano for an hour a day. And I just see that continuous improvement. And as a, call it 6, 7, 8-year-old kid, to be able to make that recognition, if I put in the time, I get better. If I put in the practice and the work, I will go and see improvement, is really, really key. And I think it's what led me, as I pursued other things, to give me the confidence to be like, I don't need to be the smartest person here. I don't have to be like, there's naturally gifted at whatever it is, coding or something, or math. It's the, you know what? Those folks are really good at that because they put in the time and the work. And so with piano, it actually, in some ways, gave me this confidence that if I want to go pursue something and I put in the time, I put in the effort, I can go and achieve it. And so for piano now, it's very much something that I love. It's my meditation. It is what I do to relax, to recharge. I'm actually a terrible actual like meditation person. I can't do it. I can't just like kind of sit there and do what's the traditional way of meditating. But for me, I get into this like flow zone, this peaceful state when I'm playing piano. And so there are days where I'm like just overwhelmed. And if I just go and play piano for an hour or two, it just makes me feel so much better.
Einstein did the same thing. He was also a prolific violinist. I don't know if you heard that before.
I
So
didn't
like
know that.
yeah. And so whenever he would like try to solve, like that's really how he came up with his creative ideas, was he would just pick up his violin and just throughout his home. So fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about, you have this company that you was acquired, Enplug, and now you have this other company, Blaze. You have the same co-founder, right? You work with the same co-founder. It's like a marriage. Tell us your secret.
It absolutely is like a marriage. And it gave me in some ways like great preparation actually for my actual marriage, which I've been married for just over a year. But with my co-founders, Bruno and Tina, I've worked with them now for a decade on 2 different companies. The first one was the one right out of college. We worked on that and built it for 9 years before it was successfully acquired. And it was for us a no-brainer to say, let's go build this next company, Blaze.tech, together. One where it is in a massive market. We built the best product in our last company in this smaller industry, the digital signage software industry. And we said, let's take all of our learnings, let's take, all the lessons we learned from the mistakes we made and bring it into Blaze.tech so that we can speed it up and go and be a leader in the no code, low code market, where we're helping organizations build software without writing any code. We have a lot of the experience and the pains that our customers experience because we had this. We had lots of talented people at our company, and we always never had enough engineers to go build the applications that can improve our operations. And I think for working with my co-founders, we have very complementary skill sets. We've now understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. We know how to communicate with one another, and something that is super important too is just this trust that's built in us, that we've worked together for 9 years. And it's not all, sunshine and rainbows and flowers. There are sometimes, multiple times where you think you're going to get divorced from your co-founders. There are times I remember early on in the early days where it was like, they're like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. Because the early days of a company, you have these big dreams. And oftentimes, most of the time, you don't reach these goals that you've set out for yourself. Anything that you said, we're going to go achieve this in a year, probably is going to take 2 or 3 years. And so there's that disappointment. And there's definitely those moments where you just say, okay, do we quit? Do we call it quits? Or do we actually think we have the trust and belief in each other and what we're building to stick together? And so we've stuck together. And the funny thing too, I'll say about this is Bruno and Tina, they're actually literally married to each other. So they're co-founders. Yes. And
they got married afterwards, or?
They got married 2 weeks before they joined me in building Enplug, the last company.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
That's interesting too, right?
Yes, they're together 24/7, right. And it's a very, I think, incredible relationship that they have. I don't think I could work with my husband. I adore him, I love him, but to also work with him on a company is another level of, I think, commitment and collaboration that is quite remarkable. And so for us, it was a no-brainer. I think we recognized that we just worked so well together that for me to go start another company, I was like, who else is going to be more talented, more hardworking than Bruno and Tina? No one. Literally, they're the most talented engineers and co-founders I could ever imagine. And I feel incredibly lucky that I get to work with them. Not only that, but the first 8 engineers at Blaze were actually the top engineers at our last company. And that we were very grateful for, because, you never know if you're like a good boss or not when people are working for you. But if you, start a new company and you see if people join and they join, you're like, oh, maybe I was not so bad.
Oh, that's so great. So when you talk about complementary skills, what are the complementary skills that you're talking about?
Yes. And this takes some time to, I think, understand and develop and work with folks. So in the early days with Bruno and Tina, we actually lived in a house together. We shared a house. We lived and worked out of this house with our other employees. And that was, the early days, you're kind of figuring it out. They very much were on the technology end. I was on the sales, marketing, operations, and we got to just learn where are the places that we shine and where are our strengths. And I think when you're starting a company, to try to work on your weaknesses and then try to be able to contribute that to the company, it just doesn't really work. So when we started Blaze, all of us just came in with our best strengths and contributed it. So it really sped up the growth of Blaze so fast. Like where we are as a company in Blaze probably took us 2 to 3 times longer to get to in the last company, because we knew each other's strengths. We immediately brought it to the table and we didn't have to figure it out. So for them, they're amazing at leading the engineering team. I don't even have to think about engineering or product or the software. Tina and Bruno leads that. They interact, they lead the engineering team. They have the scrum meetings every morning. They're the ones that devise the product roadmap. I collaborate with them on it, but they very much manage that. And then they don't need to think about hiring the salespeople, the marketing folks, doing any of the customer activation. They know I've got it taken care of on the customer end. And so this balance and this trust is so good, because when you're starting a company, there's so many things and you are always understaffed. You never have enough time. And so to be able to know, I don't need to spend my brain power in worrying about, fixing this bug, or to go hire and recruit for additional engineers, is so nice. And I think for them, they're able to bring their best selves in leading engineering and product, because they know I don't need to go worry about the sales and operations. Nancy's got it taken care of.
And you also helped with raising money probably too, right? I remember you told me a story of like how you found, your funders. You would try to sit next to people on planes.
I took the middle seat. I'm that crazy person that volunteers to take the middle seat on a plane so I get to meet more people. But yes, so I also lead the fundraising for Blaze. And so I know for Brew and Tina, when we were in the early days of building Blaze, it was that, hey, we're going to build product and we trust Nancy's going to go get the funding that we need to go hire additional engineers and salespeople.
What are some lessons that you've learned growing these companies?
Oh, so many lessons that seem so obvious, but I didn't do them when I started out. One of the big things is, again, the importance of quality people in the early days of when you're building the organization. It sets the tone and it determines so much of how quickly you can go reach the KPIs and the metrics and really the milestones you've set out for yourself and your team to achieve. And part of that is learning. You have to figure out, like, what are the best people for this role? Are they qualified? Are they a great cultural fit? And making sure that you create an interview process that actually tests for all of this. You didn't create an interview process where you only saw if they're good at answering your questions in an interview setting. You went and actually devised a system to see, are they going to have the right skill set and attitude and approach to being successful at their job. And I'd say in the early days, you're just like, oh, like this person wants to work with my company. Okay, sure. Like, come on in, join us, and not going through really any formal process. And so we've learned now to make our hiring process in a very specific way for each role, such that we actually do test whether they're qualified this. We make sure we always do reference checks. No matter how much we like that person, we do the reference check. We always do the background checks. We also make them actually do some real world case studies of what their job will actually entail. So for example, if I'm hiring a technical onboarding and implementation person, which is a person, we just hired 2 folks in this role this past week, we actually gave them some examples of questions that they would get from customers. And we asked them, okay, how would you respond to this? And then we gave them basically, here's a customer that says, we're looking to build this software. They give you the mockups. What are the questions you're going to ask them to make sure that you can help them properly set up their software inside of Blaze? So again, real world, very much reflective what their actual job is going to be. Because if I only did an interview, I'm just seeing, can they talk with me on a phone call, rather than, all right, can they get into the nitty gritty? Can a customer just randomly send them a mock-up their software and they're able to then help set that up inside of the actual platform? And in fact, we even ask all of our candidates to go build a example app inside of Blaze as part of the interview process, because for us, our platform is no code. You don't need to have any technical knowledge to go build software and apps. And certainly, we make it such that it's very easy to use. And we need to make sure that anyone that we bring onto their team is capable of also using our software. And they, at that time, also get a very good introduction then into the platform, because the interview process, as much as we're trying to get to know them, we want to make sure that they have the right expectations and understand what Blaze is about.
I completely agree. I do believe that people are the main foundation to your success or even to your demise.
Yes, agree. So that is a huge one. And with demise, yes, one bad apple in a company can just ruin everything. And I've had personal experience in having to experience that. And in fact, it was actually one of my co-founders where we had to part ways because we just recognized this is a person that right now it just is not meshing with the organization. It's not the right fit, and it's bringing other people down. It's really distracting when you have somebody who isn't bringing value, who is, constantly creating problems for other people. You just don't have time for that. And so I've experienced it the other way too, that I think recognizing that some folks, they may be really great for the organization for a certain amount of time, but sometimes they grow out of that role or with the team. And so having, I guess, now the maturity to recognize they may have been perfect for the first couple of years in the company, but they might not have later on, is something that's really hard to, accept. But I think now I see, like, I just want to bring great people now and hope that, of course, they're going to be with us forever. But if not, being like, okay, let's just make sure that we can add value to them now, and whatever they want to pursue in the future, we can be somebody that catapulted and catalyze their ability to achieve whatever they want to do next.
A lot of times people do that by being aligned with their core values. Did the co-founder's values change or what happened there, you think?
Well, so in this situation, I think, and I've had a lot of conversations with him afterwards where he kind of apologized actually for what he did. And in fact, I'm a angel investor in his new company that he started. So we have a great relationship now. But at the time, it was just not seeing eye to eye and how we wanted to run the company. And sometimes, so it wasn't even about really values. It's about, having kind of this different vision, this different approach to how we wanted to grow the company. And yeah, it caused a lot of friction, and it was definitely a painful period. And of course, this was a co-founder. We actually still lived together in a group. Like, we had a separate office, but this is a person, after we parted ways, we actually still, lived together for a couple months after that. But I think we were able to do that because we still had strong values, in that we were folks where we cared about integrity, we cared about respect, we cared about being builders. And even though we weren't aligned with where we wanted to take the company, our values and how we wanted to call it, treat each other, even after we decided to part ways, was still, I think that part was actually still pretty good.
Wow, it's a lot to learn from. And it's so great that you guys you invested in this company. So the relationship is still intact.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So let's also talk about, you've completed 4 M&A transactions, mergers and acquisitions, for people who are new to entrepreneurship, 2 private companies, 2 public companies. And I'd love to share, could you share some learnings from that, or what was that like?
Oh, absolutely. That was very unexpected. Where yes, there's so many different M&A. So 2 with my own company, and then 2 companies that I serve on the boards of. So for my own company, actually for every one of these transactions, they went through, and I would say I felt very lucky that it went through, because a lot of transactions, when you want to go sell your business or get acquired, it falls through. Most of them probably fall through. You start the conversation, it just doesn't get there. And in all four of these scenarios, I think the reason it was successful, and this is so important, is that both sides really want to have the deal done, and the terms are such that it makes sense for both sides. If one side ever felt like, wow, we're getting such a great deal and we're screwing them over, they're going to realize that the other side, whenever you do these transactions, especially if they're large dollar amounts, ones that are 50 million, 100 million, two that I did were 100 million plus transactions, they're going to have smart people there, and they're going to really review. And if you are going to be screwing them over and getting the best of them, or thinking you're getting the best of them, it's not going to happen. The transaction is just not going to go through. And so I think for each of these transactions, both parties went in with a lot of, I would say, not full transparency, because there are things with your own company and shareholder responsibility where you don't need to go and say everything, but it is one where we approach it that, is this fair? Does it make sense for the other side? And the other side too probably is thinking, okay, does it make sense for them? Because if it's not, what's going to happen is you're going to spend all this time, tons of money, and it's like millions and millions of dollars of legal bills, and then it's going to fall through. And both sides, nobody comes out a winner when you call off doing an M&A transaction. It's very, very costly, and money is just one part of it. The bigger part is really the time lost and the energy lost, because it is so much work to get involved. But big learnings in there is, one, again, both parties need to really want to engage in the transaction, and it needs to make sense. Another thing that I think is super important is, get all of kind of the important details, just lay it out of what you are expecting right off the bat. Because if it's later on, you're like, oh, these general things, oh, these other small details, let's just worry about it later. Some small things you can put to the side, but a lot of times people think our small details are probably not. Front loaded and just say, what are your expectations here? And being able to ask difficult questions, not tiptoeing around issues, and just putting it up front and saying, hey, here's the expectations we're looking for. When I sold our company, it was, hey, and in fact, they then reached out to us. We were not looking to sell the company. This is for my last company. We were very profitable, high growth organization. So we got offers all the time, left and right, from different companies, because it was mostly founder owned, high growth, recurring revenue, sticky products, a leader in the industry. So it really checked the box for so many organizations. And so because I had so many people that would come in and say, hey, can we buy the company? I got to the point where I'm just like, what's the multiple you're willing to pay? Right off the bat, instead of oftentimes in the early days, I remember making the mistake being like, oh, I'll take the call and be all great. And then, they're like, we're so interested. And I shared all my information. And then they're like, oh, and this is what multiple we're willing to pay on your recurring revenue. And I'm like, oh, that's not very interesting for us. No, this time around, it was really different. It was, what price are you guys looking for? And to be honest, we said the price and they immediately said yes. And we kind of put the price as 2 times higher than any other offer we had really ever received before. And then, but because they said yes so quickly, we were like, crap, we said too low of a number.
It was too low.
It was too low, but you know what? It was okay, because it was still, we were happy with it. And they were very, very happy with the number too, I think, because I think they were expecting that they probably had to pay much higher than they actually did. And so it was a win-win for both of us. And I think this is why our transaction went so smoothly and very quickly.
I love that. You just cut to the chase. You're just like, clarity.
Yeah, here, I'll share my data. I'll share, here's, we're really proud of our revenues and our net income. Okay, what's the multiple you're willing to pay now that I gave you that? Because oftentimes they can give you a ballpark, with just those numbers alone, your growth rate, your top line, your bottom line, you should be able to, and churn number, if you give them these 4, the buyer should be able to immediately come back with the ballpark number, and then you can see if it's worth your time at all.
And if not, then they really are just not even serious, right?
Or they're serious, but they're just not within the range. They have a different expectation for what they are willing to pay and what you're willing to accept. And so for the right company, somebody else's trash is another one's treasure, right? And so this for M&A very much is the situation where a lot of companies wanted to buy us, but what they were able and what their mandate for as a company was able to pay didn't fit what the hurdle rate was for us to want to sell the company.
You have so many things, so many wonderful things going on. What is your day-to-day like? What's your routine like?
Well, routine very much is on Blaze. I would say it's centered around making sure that I'm doing everything possible, taking the most of my strengths to add value to growing Blaze. And so that's the big core piece of it. But the other routine part is I read a lot. And I think we talked about this before. And I know, Kalika, you're also a big reader, but I make reading a pretty big part of my day as well, where I'll probably spend at least an hour reading a book. And so on average, I'll finish at least one book, whether nonfiction or fiction, per week. And it's something that just brings me a lot of joy. I feel like I'm learning every time I'm reading a new author. I feel like I'm introduced to a new world, a new perspective. And then of course, music, although now I don't, play every single day, I try to include music as much as possible, whether it's just playing music or my husband and I, he plays violin. We'll do violin and cello duets together, sometimes violin and piano duets. So that's super fun. And then also making health a key piece of just the daily routine. I think if you can make health a routine, that's going to prolong your life so much. So it's making sure you eat healthy. It's making sure that I'm walking around, that in between meetings that I walk around. There's this hill by my house where I'll go running up and down the hill. We take walks at night. So that I definitely include in part of the routine. And then there's a portion of my day where kind of not even necessarily I'm like thinking about it, but it just sort of happens because I'm involved in different nonprofits and I like helping my friends, is that there's a portion of my day where I just am spending my time helping other people or nonprofits I'm involved with, whether it's fundraising or connecting people with opportunities. I always just craft some time there to also do that.
Are you in any accountability groups? Like in my forum, we like challenge each other to do like 10,000 steps or get like 1,200 calories per day. My minimum is like 500 calories, but like my forum mates are like 1,200 calories. Like, how do you do that? Like just through movement, or are
Um,
you just lots of self-discipline?
I think for me, I just do it on my own. So I have a Fitbit where it'll track the steps I take and kind of the average calorie count of what I'm burning when I'm, walking around, being active, going running. And then on the books and other stuff. So on my phone, every year, I actually set out a list of goals and I sort of track these on my own. And I would say these are goals where some of them could be like lifetime goals. And I have the separate lifetime goals that are big, lofty goals. And I always have it there and I reference it. And every time I finish a book, because reading is part of my goals, reading and finishing 52 books a year, I track it inside of this like one notepad. It's the notes app in my iPhone. And so it keeps me disciplined because I see the numbers, just like the Fitbit. I see the numbers. It's always kind of in front of me. I really do like the, saying that whatever you track, you improve. And so, yeah, I track kind of my goals this way. And I think at the end of the day, for me, I know the best person to keep myself accountable is my own self. So I don't have any kind of like the accountability group, but I think they work well, at least as long as you have yourself or somebody else keeping you accountable.
Yeah, we also one of my forum mates told me about the Habits app, and so I've been using that now because she's doing like one of my habits is like trying to do like brain games, so
Mm.
that's been really fun. So what are you reading right now? Like, do you have like multiple books that you're reading or
No, I
what?
only
Yeah.
ever read one book at once, and it's like my only thing that I focus on. I think one thing that and this is I can't remember when I started doing it, but I just recognize I am so much better when I can just focus and really dig into each thing. And so with the book, like if I start reading another book, I'm like 10 pages there, I just realize that I'm not as optimal than just like, this is the one book. Anytime I have a free time, if I'm on the toilet, if I'm waiting in line, this is the book that I'm reading. So the book I'm reading right now is Salvage the Bones by Jesmyn Ward. It won the National Book Award. It is about a family that is going through Hurricane Katrina. It's fiction. It's beautifully written, and it's about a poor Black family in Mississippi. And basically, in a lot of ways, they're just like any other family. They're struggling through, there's the family relationships, and then there's kind of like this bigger hurricane that is coming, and how the family and the kids deal with it. It's a beautiful book, really, really well written. I'm call it in the probably maybe in 45 minutes from finishing the book. And I can understand why it was actually required reading for my sister's high school. And so the book is actually her book, and I stole it from her, and she said it was a great book. And so actually there's a number of books I read this year and last year that were actually her high school required reading, which when I was in high school, I didn't do any of the required reading, but here I am as an adult appreciating some of the literature that the students have been assigned.
How do you, besides stealing your your sister's books, how do you find your other books to read?
Recommendations from friends, or sometimes like if I just feel like I want to read something, I will search for it. So the last book before, actually two before this, so I like to go back and forth, fiction and then nonfiction, fiction, nonfiction. So right before this book, it was Neil deGrasse Tyson's book on astrophysics, like Introduction to Astrophysics. So I was reading that. That was great. And the book before that was called, oh my gosh, Chemistry. Love and Chemistry, or I forget the name now, but it was fiction, and it's about this female scientist in the 60s and 70s, again, fiction. And that one was, I just wanted kind of more lighthearted reading, one that was fun, had a hint of romance. And so I searched for it, and it was highly rated on Amazon. So I picked it up. But then other ones, yeah, just book recommendations from friends.
Oh, that's so great. So you do a lot of work with women entrepreneurs. What type of advice would you give? I know that there's so much advice you could probably like. What is one thing that they should be paying attention to as they're building their business?
Yes, I would say for women entrepreneurs, the one thing that really helped me a lot is, again, to find other women entrepreneurs that are going through that same process or a couple of steps ahead, where they're not my mentors. They're actually just my friends, people I just have relationship with. And I say friends more than mentor-mentee relationship, because you want to also make sure that you're providing value to them. Because I think oftentimes if you just have this mentor and all they're doing is helping you, but you don't really give much back, I don't know if those relationships can really last a long time. And so for what I'm really, really proud of are just the women that I get to be with. So in my bachelorette party, I had 12 women that were at my bachelorette party. They were my closest friends, and 10 of them are CEOs, incredible CEOs, some that have sold some of the biggest companies in the country, and they're all on the Forbes wealthiest self-made women's list. And then the other two women, one is the chief of staff for the NFL, and another is a partner at a top VC firm. So these are the folks that I spend all my time with. And so I think this is really important, because I want to be with people who are high achievers and good people, positive people who know what success looks like. And so I think as a female entrepreneur, you do have way more hurdles than your male counterpart. That's just how it is. And so it's very easy to be always feeling down and being like, I'm not, making it happen, or feeling like you're failing. But if you're surrounding yourself again with women who who are succeeding, who are working hard, who are achieving milestones, you'll realize that everyone has many failures along the way, but it's that those failures help them bring kind of to the next step, and to not let any single failure or something that didn't work out set you back. So again, I think it is, at the end of the day, the general advice is surround yourself with awesome people, because it will impact your approach, your resilience, your perseverance. We'd like to think that even if we're surrounded by negative people, that we will persevere. It just makes it that much harder. So make it easier on yourself to be around high achieving, hardworking people. Again, good people that know what success looks like, because anyone who has experienced success has also experienced failure.
Well, what if you don't know anyone who's like that? Because there are a lot of people, right, all across the United States that are probably listening to this podcast, or even beyond, right? This is a global podcast. What if they don't have access to it? What could they do?
This is not saying go find another female entrepreneur necessarily. Actually, I'll clarify. This is finding another woman who is hustling and positive and trying to achieve something. When you're building a company, you're trying to go take something that doesn't exist, go build it into something and monetize it. And so it could be that you're hanging out with somebody who is an artist, who is just trying to break it into the art world, and they're working hard. So it doesn't have to be in the same field. It can be from anywhere. And that does mean you're not going to meet people if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't try. If you think people are just going to come to you and be like, I want to be friends with you. No, that's not going to happen. You have to do the work. So whenever I hear folks be like, I don't know, like I never meet anybody else. You have so many female founder friends. I just don't have that network. I was like, I didn't know any of these people. These people I met at like a networking event, or put yourself into a networking event. And they're not even networking event. They're just social events. They're gatherings. Go out in different places to meet people, and then immediately be able to filter, does this person add value? Does this person align with my values? And so I would say, and different people have different values. There's no right or wrong. It's just like, what are the groups of people that jive with you? So for me, my friends and we happen to be folks where we're really positive, we're healthy folks. We enjoy having fun together, but we're not like crazy, like party raver people, which again, there's no right or wrong. That could be actually your group of people that you need. For us, we like to go and have brunch together on the weekends. We like to go on a hike together. And occasionally we'll go do the fancy trip where we go shopping together in Paris. So it is finding the people that have some of these, values and what you want to achieve and how you live life, to just be there with you. And I guess no matter what, it's positive people. Negative people just don't work for me. Like, in fact, whenever I kind of encounter folks that are just like really negative from the outset, I'm just like, I don't have time for that. I've got too many great people. Now, that doesn't mean when your friend is going through a tough time and they're negative, that you're not there for them. That's very different than somebody who is just a constant cynic. And so that's, I feel like, a key part of what's helped me get to where I am. Couldn't have done it just without these group of friends who didn't even know probably that they were helping, but they very much were.
Yeah, I completely agree, because there are people who are constant energy, vampires, or what they call them. But if there's someone who does go through something, right, their parent dies or something like that, then of course you're going to, or they have a breakup, of course you're going to be there, right? They're going to be the ups and downs, but certainly the people who are always like that, yeah, definitely stay away from them.
Yep, that's
So
right.
what are you looking forward to in 2023?
In 2023, so many different things. One of them is just building Blaze kind of, so we're now, past that 1 year mark where we have so many amazing customers that we're working with. We couldn't even believe that we were able to get product out in customers within that first year. And so for me, it's just exciting to see the kind of milestones and the metrics I want to hit by the end of the year, where I think we're going to be working with well over 100 different companies. And so I'm just super, actually, I say well over 150 companies. So I'm very, very excited about that. And then I would say a lot of the prior years, especially in the later years of my last company, I spent a lot of time like kind of having fun, doing more nonprofit work. And so this year is really kind of heads down, getting back into just focusing on Blaze and growing Blaze because it's the early days and it's really exciting. That's, I would say, a really, really big piece. And the other one is, for the show. So I'm involved in the newest season of The Bay. I would love to see us get nominated for Emmy again and go for that win. So that's one. And then on the health side, some of the things that are just like silly things, but I'm like, let me just like try to achieve these things. One is just getting scuba diving certification. Like that's one of the things where
That's
I
fun.
know lots of people have it. And I was like, you know what, let me go and try and do that. I enjoy accumulating different skill sets. Like prior years, it was like, got my motorcycle license, getting a sports pilot license, I'm getting certified as a marksman. And so I would say scuba diving kind of probably a little bit random, but one that I'm like, yeah, I'd like to just have this skill set in my back pocket.
And you recently got married, as you mentioned. Do you have any goals there?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're enjoying very much, that first year of marriage, but yeah, we'd love to start a family. And we both love kids. I have a sister who's in college right now, and my dad, who's a single father, and I kind of like raised her. And so I feel like I have practice with her, and she's amazing. And so, yeah, love kids. And so look forward to also having the opportunity in the future to start a family.
Oh, that's so wonderful. How can people contact you or get to know you more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on Twitter and I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. Twitter, just Nanxi_Liu, LinkedIn, Nanxi Liu. And I also do a lot of the writing for Blaze. So on Twitter, Blaze is Blaze No Code. And so you can kind of see my thinking around AI and no code, low code, building software, etc.
And your website, blaze.tech?
That's right. Definitely check out blaze.tech. If folks want to build software really fast for their teams, I truly believe it's going to be the best resource for companies. And it's already becoming a secret weapon for lots of companies, organizations, particularly in traditional businesses like non-tech organizations. Blaze has helped them optimize and speed up any kind of app development so much.
Awesome. And what about if they are looking for funding, your X Factor Ventures? What's that website?
Yes, so it's xfactor.ventures is our website.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending so much time with us. I mean, I am just so incredibly inspired by you. You are so young and you're so accomplished and you're just like my type of like entrepreneur. You're just
Oh
the
my gosh,
best.
you're so kind. Thank you,
You're the
Kalika.
best. Have an awesome day and hopefully we'll have you back on the podcast as we see Blaze.tech grow.
Would love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.